PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Do you ever feel like you're normal and the rest of the world has lost its collective mind?
Put your helmet on. We'll be reaching speeds of 3.
Do you find people saying this to you a lot?
Are you totally deranged?
Are you looking for a looking glass to pass through?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Or looking for a rabbit hole to fall down?
Who could think of a better punishment, really? Everything's the same here. It's just a little worse.
Guess what?
Life's a bitch. Now so am I.
You found it. Welcome to Platinum Rose's Garden.
Hey guys, this is Platinum Rose Lady welcoming you to another week here on Platinum Rose's Garden. It is Saturday, April 29th, 2017. I'm sorry that I've been away for a little bit. Did you miss me? I had, and you can probably tell from my voice, a really terrible cold. I wound up with a springtime cold, and it's just been complete crap. You know, it's one of those really fun colds, you know, where you're coughing so hard you can't see straight, you're coughing so hard you can't stand up straight, you have to sit down, and you're coughing so hard that it feels like you've swallowed a wet sponge and it's stuck in your throat, and you breathe and there's this horrible rattling noise, and you're like, what was that? Holy shit, that was me. You know, that's always fun. So that's been what I've been doing. But I'm on the road to recovery. Knock wood. And so it kind of messed up my Easter a little bit, you know, but I hope everybody who celebrates had a really wonderful and blessed Easter. I was able to make it to my church to do the Easter Vigil, which was really cool. They have this way they do things at the Easter Vigil where the church is completely dark and then they light the Easter candle and then everybody lights a candle from that candle. And it's really beautiful when you see it. It's just this really special experience. For those who celebrate, you know. If you don't, that's cool. But I hope everybody had a good couple of weeks. Like I said, I'm recovering from this verschluggana cold, so trying to get back into the swing of things, which means getting back to Supernatural and doing 2 episodes back to back. So this is going to be a slightly longer show, hope you don't mind. But we're going to jump into it right now with our Supernatural episode recap.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry.
Season 12, Episode 18 of Supernatural, The Memory Remains. Then was dealing with the fact that obviously this season we're dealing with Mary Winchester being back on Earth, being back to hunting, winding up partnering up with the Men of Letters, and winding up in the bed of Mr. Ketch. I'm sorry, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Hold on, drink of water. Anyway, moving on, we are also dealing with the then and the British Men of Letters, led up by the evil doctor, who has basically declared war on the American hunters, starting with the Winchesters on the top of her hit list. This woman is a total umbrage. And now we're dealing with Now. And Now is in the town of Tomahawk, Wisconsin, where we see a group of friends who are out having a bonfire / makeout session, because that's apparently something you do in Wisconsin. Go outside to make out? Whatever. I don't know. Never been to Wisconsin. I'm sure it's a lovely place. No offense to anybody from Wisconsin. But one guy whose name is Jared is not is dateless, so he's real not into watching a bunch of other people make out when he's not making out himself. So he decides he's going to leave. As he's leaving, something is watching him from the woods. He walks by a tree where there is a backpack full of money, and he walks over to it like most people would, and winds up in a trap, because, you set down honey to trap a bear, you set down money to trap a person. He's calling for help as this figure is approaching him, this large figure carrying a hammer and with the head of a goat. His cries are actually heard very faintly by one of his friends who sees him being attacked by this figure and being struck in the head, and we get the opening credits, and we cut back to the Batcave where we see Dean calling Castiel, who we know is in heaven right now, and not getting an answer. Sam, as it turns out, has been up all night doing research trying to find out more information about Dagon, the Knight of Hell, the Prince of Hell, who is with Kelly Klein right now, who is still pregnant with Lucifer's baby. Sam, as I said, has been doing a lot of research, found out they've got a lot of books about demons, but not a lot of information about Dagon. Sam gets a phone call from, it says it's from Mick, who we know is actually dead because he was shot by Mr. Ketch. Another example of Mr. Ketch being a raging dickhead. It turns out that Mick, quote, quote, is sending them on a case. This disappearance in this town in Wisconsin. It turns out that this town has actually had a lot of people disappear in it over the years. It turns out that up until 1997, since the town had been founded back in the 1800s up until 1997, one person from the town went missing every year. And in 1997, the disappearances stopped, but apparently they're starting up again for whatever reason. We see Mr. Ketch telling other members of the British Men of Letters that it's time. And we see Sam and Dean showing up in Wisconsin and wearing their Fed outfits and looking delicious as always. And they are interviewing the sheriff of the town, Sheriff Barrett Bishop Jr., who seems pretty unconcerned with the disappearance of one of their local town people, this young fella named Jared, who apparently had a pretty tough road to hoe. His parents were both deceased, and he wasn't leading a very easy life. So Sheriff Bishop is of the opinion that Jared just couldn't take it anymore and wound up skipping town. As we know, which we know as the audience that it's not true. Sam and Dean interview Jared's friend, a young man named Darren. Darren says that Jared was attacked by a monster that's known in the area, a creature called Black Bill, which Sam finds out when he and Dean convene at a diner. Sam's been doing research and found out that Black Bill is this local urban legend. He's this area's version of the Jersey Devil, this monster out in the woods kind of a thing. Dean's plan is that they'll just hunt this beast down and use the Colt to kill it, since the Colt is back in the Winchester's possession, and we know that the Colt can kill pretty much a lot of stuff. One of the things it can't kill, however, is Lucifer. We do know that. And Dean's of the opinion this is going to be pretty cut and dry, and goes back to doing what he was doing, which was flirting like hell with a local waitress, which Sam's kind of watching like, oh crap, here we go again. Darren, we see Darren at work, working for the local meat packing plant, and he's in trouble at work for coming in late and not really being up to snuff. He winds up being gently told off by his boss, Pete, and when he goes to leave work, he gets in his truck and doesn't realize that Black Bill is watching him. Black Bill smashes the window, drags Darren out, and knocks him unconscious with the hammer. Sam meets up with Dean the next morning at the local diner. Sam's been doing research because he's just such a smart, precious little darling cupcake that I adore. And Dean's been getting nookie because Dean is Dean. And I love him too. They're both just awesome in their own ways, but good grief. I mean, at least the girl's pretty. You know, I mean, you gotta say that. Dean's got good taste in girls. Sam thinks what they're dealing with, the monster that they're dealing with, is a satyr. It's a satyr. A satyr is a creature from Greek mythology that looks pretty harmless according to the artwork. Sam shows a picture of Pan, who was a Greek god of the wilderness. Satyrs, according to the myth, would capture people and bring them in the woods, and they'd have orgies, which sounds pretty okay. The problem is, after the orgies were done, the satyrs would kill people and eat them. I never heard that part of the myth, but okay. Sam's also found out that from speaking with Darren's mother, Darren never came home last night. Sam and Dean go and interview Pete, Darren's boss, and they find out that the big day that we had seen previously, that Pete had mentioned to Darren that tomorrow was going to be a big day. The big day turns out to be the fact that the plant has a visit from a health inspector. The meatpacking plant has seen some hard times. The equipment's not as, sharp as it should be, and the plant's kind of on the skids a little bit. It turns out that the plant is actually owned by the Bishop family, as in Sheriff Bishop. His family owns the plant. The brothers go back and revisit with the sheriff and ask him about Black Bill, and the sheriff just kind of dismisses the whole thing, hand waves it away as, Black Bill's the local boogeyman. The boogeyman's not real. It's kind of just all a bunch of nonsense. We realize, we know as the audience that it's not nonsense, and so does poor Darren, who wakes up. He is in a meat locker in the plant, along with Jared's very dead body. Darren starts pounding on the door, screaming for help and stuff like that. Unfortunately, it's in part of the plant that is allegedly condemned and off limits. Sam and Dean don't hear him screaming. And Darren is not alone in the meat locker either, as he winds up being attacked by a figure that we're assuming is Black Bill. Some more research yields the fact that all of the missing people, even going way back, were people that worked at this plant. The Bishop family actually owned the town. They started the town. They own all the houses in town. The thing is, the family's been seeing very hard times over the years, as we all have. And the sheriff, the only surviving member of the family from the looks of things, has been selling off a lot of the family, businesses and houses and stuff like that. The only place that they still have is the plant, the meatpacking plant, and the Bishop family house, which is this large place that Dean compares to the Addams family house. Unfortunately, while all this is going on, Sam and Dean don't know that the British men of letters have broken into the Batcave, and according to Mr. Ketch, who tells the other British men of letter henchweasels that they need to gather as much intel as they can on the Winchesters, find out who their allies are, find out all of the information they can about them, and also try and get the Colt back. Sam and Dean go to the Bishop house, and they get in, and the house seems pretty deserted. I mean, there's sheets on the furniture and stuff like that, what furniture there is. There doesn't seem to be much to the place at all. Sam finds a door that's got a whole shit ton of locks on it, which obviously means something's going on. And they manage to get the door open, which leads down to a basement. The thing is, as the Winchesters are in the cellar, which is kind of this dungeon location full of weaponry and stuff that could be used to, chop up bodies. The sheriff pulls up to the house. Sheriff comes in, takes the keys from a book to unlock all the locks on the door, notices the door's been, forced open anyway, goes downstairs, gun drawn, gets to the bottom of the stairs, and he's greeted by Dean with a gun to his head. It turns out that what is going on in this town is actually the fact that Black Bill, the figure with the goat's head and everything like that, is actually not a monster. It's been the men of the Bishop family. What they are doing is they are kidnapping people and sacrificing them to a god named Moloch. This was a god that was found by the Bishop family way back in the day when they founded the town. They actually found the god, and it was under their house. And they kept the god fed by offering up blood sacrifices, human blood, and they would feed the god blood, and the god would grant the family money and prosperity and stuff like that, which is why the family did so well for so long. And the whole thing was they would kidnap people, make sure they were seen in this Black Bill costume to perpetuate the myth of this boogeyman type figure. Sheriff Bishop didn't want to go along with this and was obviously disgusted by what his family was doing. And when his father died in 1997, he stopped the ritual. He stopped feeding the god, and he just hoped the god would starve to death in the basement. Not the best plan in the world, but at least it's something. The thing is, when Sam and Dean are talking to him, and Sam looks down inside the grate where the god was being kept, it's empty. They all hear a noise upstairs. Dean tells Sam to stay put with the sheriff and goes to check. When he goes upstairs, he finds a man dressed in this Black Bill costume, and it turns out that it's Pete. It's the manager. But who's actually in the Black Bill costume? It turns out that that's apparently Moloch. Pete pushes Dean over a banister, because obviously Pete can't be in two places at once, and Pete pushes Dean over a banister. Dean falls a short distance and winds up getting knocked out. And Pete locks Sam and the sheriff in the basement. Sam's pounding on the door with his shoulder, and the sheriff grabs a meat cleaver, hands it to Sam to try and hack the door open. Sam manages to get the door open. As he and the sheriff leave the house, Sam says he's going to track Dean via his cell phone. We cut back to the Batcave, where we see Mr. Ketch pawing through Dean's clothes and his belongings, and looking at, pictures, and looking through Dean's porn, and looking very intently at pictures that Dean's saved, pictures of him and Sam and Bobby. And he stops when he's looking at this one picture of Dean with his mother. Dean comes to at the plant. He's been taped to a chair. It turns out that Pete, the plant manager, is actually related to the Bishops as well. He is Sheriff Bishop's half-brother. They had different mothers, but the same father. Apparently, Mr. Bishop, the senior, the sheriff's dad, spread his seed around a lot. Wasn't exactly a town secret either. And then Pete had gone to the Bishop house to try and steal some stuff because he felt like he was owed something by the family, and found the keys and found out about Moloch. Moloch offered to give Pete give him money and everything he desired if he would feed him. So that's why the whole disappearance thing had started again. And Pete was planning to sacrifice Sheriff Bishop to Moloch, but since Dean fell into his hands first, Dean gets to be the sacrifice du jour. So he winds up locked up in the meat locker with Moloch. The British men of letters go to leave the Batcave, but before they leave, Mr. Ketch places a bug under one of the tables in the common room in the British men of letters, and he depart the Batcave. Dean manages to break his bonds, and as he's getting out of the chair and trying to get out of the meat locker, Moloch approaches him. And Sam and the sheriff show up at the plant, and as they're showing up trying to find Dean, we keep cutting between them searching for Dean and Pete, and Dean in the meat locker. It's very tense. It's really well shot. Sam winds up being attacked by Pete, which gets his gun knocked out of his hand, and then Pete attacks the sheriff, and goes to kill him as he's ranting how he's going to save the town by continuing the sacrifices and everything. Sam manages to grab his gun and shoots Pete, grabs the Colt, and gets the meat locker open as Dean, who's been fighting with Moloch and getting his ass handed to him, unfortunately, because, come on, hello, it is a god. Sam manages to shoot Moloch, and turns out that the Colt works really well on pagan gods, because Moloch just disintegrates into this puddle of bleh. Sam makes a remark to Dean about the Colt dusting anything, which Dean had made earlier. Dean has already been struck extremely hard in the head and kind of falls to the ground for a second, and we get a commercial break. When we come back, Dean's holding a steak up to his head where he's been injured. I really don't think he's going to be eating some steak for a few days. Sam's checking on him, and Dean says he's okay. The sheriff tells Sam and Dean to go, that he'll take care of the aftermath of what's happened in town, and obviously, put the blame for everything on Pete. Back at the Batcave, Sam and Dean are recovering from their wounds and stuff like that, and trying to, deal with what's happened to them. And they wind up talking about legacies, because Pete had made a remark about that it was the family business, killing people, hunting people and killing them, calling it the family business, which earns him a very sharp look from Dean, obviously, because we all know the Winchester's family business is saving people and hunting things. So Dean and Sam are talking, and they're talking about the whole idea of what their legacy is going to be. Dean wondering if after they're gone, after all the things that they've done, he wonders if people will remember them, like, a century from now. Sam doesn't think they will, and Dean's comment is, oh, that's nice. Although Sam does say that, people like him and Dean, they're not the type of people that get written about in history books, but they do have a legacy, and their legacy is the people that they've saved. And the people who they've saved, they'll remember them. But he says that's fine, because we left the world better than we found it, And Dean agrees. I adore Sam, but I really like to think that he's wrong. And we kind of know that he is wrong in a way, because we know that Castiel talks about Castiel had mentioned that the Chuck Shirley novels were going to be known as the Winchester Gospels. I'd really like to think that 100 years from now, people would think of Sam and Dean as heroes, just like we think of them as heroes. I mean, I think of them as heroes. I don't know about anybody else, but I do. Dean decides that, that's all fine, well, and great, but they're going to make a little bit of legacy right now. He takes out his knife, and he carves his initials into the table that they're sitting at, and hands the blade to Sam, and Sam does the same thing. And in a really nice touch, as they're carving their names into the table, we keep flashing back to the scene from when they were children, and they carved their initials into the Impala. And I love how Sam blows away the wood shavings and stuff, and it kind of flashes back to when he was little and blowing away the shavings and stuff when they carved their initials into baby. You know, because Sam's still, that little child is still inside Sam somewhere, and I just think that was really sweet. Excuse me. Sam goes to call Mick to check in with them about what happened, and Mr. Ketch answers the phone. He tells them that Mick has gone back to England, which we all know is, well, he probably did go back to England in a body bag. After they tell Ketch what happened and, you know, that they fought a god and they won, they hang up with him and they start talking. They realize that they're going to be dealing with him now, and Dean complains to Sam about that, referring to Mr. Ketch as a low-rent Christian Bale, which I was like, hey, don't insult Christian Bale like that. Sorry. I know, I'm a bitch. And we see Ketch listening to the Winchester's conversation where they're still talking about him, and Dean saying how he doesn't like him, he creeps him out, and Dean saying all that and Sam agreeing with him, and Mr. Ketch listening to this as he's looking at the photo that he took when he and the other British men of letters were in the bunker. He took one of Dean's photos, specifically the photo of young Dean with his mom, and the episode ends. And I was like, oh man, I need a shower. I need a shower like right friggin' now. That was just so incredibly creepy. It was, oh my gosh. David Hayden Jones, who plays Mr. Ketch. David, I don't know if you're ever going to hear this or not. I think you're fantastic. I think you're a terrific actor, and I'm sure you're a lovely person and good to your family and kind to small animals and stuff like that. I wouldn't piss on your character if he was on fire. That guy is such a creep. Oh my gosh. I really liked this episode. I thought it was a really good episode. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I give The Memory Remains 4 bouquets out of 5. And now, since there was a little bit of a break in there because of my illness, we're going to jump right into Season 12, Episode 19 of Supernatural, The Future. The Then deals with Castiel meeting up with another angel named Kelvin, who had told him that he was welcome back in heaven because Joshua, the angel that we had seen way back in Dark Side of the Moon, Joshua had a plan to deal with the whole situation with Kelly Klein, who is pregnant with Lucifer's baby and currently the captive of the Prince of Hell, Dagon. And also we're dealing with that in the Then, and also the cult, which is back in the possession of the Winchesters and almost was used to kill Dagon by Eileen, who unfortunately didn't kill her and wound up killing one of the British men of letters. And now we are at now. Kelly is force-fed vitamins by Dagon, who has her prisoner in a house and is basically gloating over her that once she has this baby, that you know, the birth of the baby is going to kill Kelly, and that once the baby is born, the baby is going to basically destroy everything. Kelly is told and ordered by Dagon to take a bath. Kelly hasn't been eating very much and has been, you know, basically almost catatonic from the look of things. Kelly takes a bath, and as she's thinking to her unborn child, you know, basically thinking, you know, I love you, you're my baby, but if you're really going to be this force of destruction that Dagon says you're going to be, that she can't let the baby live. And Kelly slits her wrists, and it's extremely graphic Although really nothing's shown except the aftermath, which is a shite ton of blood. It's very sad. I mean, it's a very, very sad scene. And we get the opening credits, and we are at the Men of Letters bunker in Lebanon, Kansas, and Sam doing tons of research, trying to figure out when the baby will be born. He does know from his research that nephilium, which is what happens when an angel and a human have sex, the result is what is known as a nephilium. Nephiliums don't have to be carried to 9 months like regular babies. And if he has everything figured out right, Kelly will give birth in mid-May. He's telling this to Dean as the door opens up to the Batcave, and it's Castiel. And he tells the Winchesters where he's been, that he's been in heaven trying to work on this plan that the angels have. Dean is, needless to say, pissed. Like, wicked, mega pissed. Sorry, drink of water. I can't tell if he's more pissed with Cass for leaving and not telling them where he's been, or the whole working with the angels thing. Dean goes to his room, and Cass comes in and tries to return a tape. Dean had given him a tape of Led Zeppelin songs. Dean tells him to keep it. And Dean tells him, basically, he's perfectly honest and tells him that he was worried. You know, they didn't know where he was, they couldn't get a hold of him, and he was fucking worried. Cass tells him that he feels like he's been failing, that he's been failing over and over again, that he couldn't find the Winchesters when they were locked in prison. You know, he couldn't find, you know, he had found Kelly and let her get away, and he wanted to try and do something that was going to count as a win. And Dean tells him that, you know, they've been dealing with the same thing on their end. And Cass asks him if they find Kelly, will he and Sam be able to kill her? You know, and in killing her, will they be able to kill her baby as well? Dean says they'll find a way together. They'll find a way all together. Him, Cass, and Sam. They'll find it as team free will. And he also says he needs a beer. And walks by Cass. And Cass looks kind of, I don't know. I mean, the look on his face is kind of, I can't really describe it. Dagon goes down into the cellar where she's been keeping Kelly and finds a bathtub full of blood and finds Kelly sitting over in a corner and her wrists are healed. And Kelly tells her that the baby wouldn't let her die. Excuse me. Sam and Dean are talking about what they need to try to do to find Kelly, and Sam's talking about tracking the baby using the fact the baby is part angel, using the tracking spell that he and Cass had tried to use to try and find Gadriel, you know, a few years back. And then Sam gets this look on his face and makes a remark about how he's an idiot, and Dean's like, well, no argument there. I was like, you brat. But Sam has another idea. And the idea being that instead of not only using the grace of the baby to track it, if they use the grace extraction spell that Cass had used on him, because Sam had some of Gadriel's grace left inside of him, which Cass had extracted to try and track down Gadriel. If they use the grace extraction spell on the baby, it would just take away the angel powers and you just have a baby, just a regular human child. And I'm like, Sam, oh my gosh, you're so fucking smart. You are so wicked fucking smart. It's ridiculous. And Dean's on board with the idea, obviously, because, you know, it's it's a win-win. Kelly doesn't have to die. The baby doesn't have to die. Obviously, it's a good thing. And Dean goes to get Cass and goes to the room they've given to Cass in the Batcave, which is also the room that Mary had been staying in. But Cass is gone. Kelly is really, now because of what happened with the whole suicide attempt and stuff like that, Kelly is really convinced that her baby isn't evil. Dagon disagrees. Dagon's whole thing is that this baby is going to be born, you're going to die, and I'm going to take over raising the baby, and I'm going to lead the baby into being the destructive force of terror that it should be. We see Castiel has driven to someplace else and is meeting with Kelvin, the angel that we'd seen before, and it turns out that he had gone to the bunker and the Batcave and met with Sam and Dean for the sole purpose of taking the Colt, which he intends to use to get Kelly. Probably to kill Dagon, but to get to Kelly. And I'm sitting there going, oh no. Oh man, oh Cass, what have you done? Another angel shows up and tells them that Dagon and Kelly are in the house they've been watching. Castiel gets a phone call from Dean and blocks it. And Castiel tells Kelvin that he's doing this. He's going to kill Kelly and the baby because he doesn't want Sam and Dean to have to do it. And he also wants to keep them away from Dagon because he's sure Dagon will kill them. I'm like, Cass, I understand. I do understand. I really understand. But, dude, I'm just like, man. Cass and the other angels get into the house and they attack Dagon while Castiel goes to the cellar to kill Kelly. Dagon winds up killing one of the other angels and goes to the cellar and finds Castiel and Kelly gone. They've found out, Sam and Dean have found out that the Colt is gone. Turns out that Dean actually kept the Colt in his room under his pillow, and he is, needless to say, absolutely furious. We see Castiel driving his truck, and Kelly is in the passenger seat. Kelly thanks Cass for saving her life, but Cass tells her not to. Dagon has to tell Lucifer, who is still prisoner in hell, that Kelly is gone, and that goes about as well as you think it's going to go. Lucifer is enraged, and tells Dagon that her whole plan of, her ruling what's left of Earth beside Lucifer and the baby, that whole plan, which was Lucifer's promise to Dagon if she helped him and kept an eye on Kelly and all that, that's kind of gone out the window, and Lucifer threatens Dagon with tortures beyond, her wildest nightmares unless she gets Kelly back. It turns out that Dagon didn't kill both the angels, though, because Kelvin is her prisoner. Castiel has gotten an order from Joshua to bring Kelly and the baby to heaven, which will obviously kill her and the babies. It'll destroy her and her baby's bodies. She and the baby's souls will live on in heaven, but they'll be destroyed. Their material bodies will be destroyed. So they're going to the playground where the gates of heaven are located. Castiel tells her that the baby is too dangerous to live, but Kelly doesn't think that that's right. Dagon tortures Kelvin for information about where Castiel would go. The problem is Castiel's truck breaks down, and Castiel and Kelly are in a motel because his truck is dead and he's trying to figure out how to fix it, and apparently doesn't have the mojo to fix it on his own, or just teleport them to the place where the playground is. Kelly tells Castiel about her suicide attempt, that she tells him that she did die, and considering the amount of blood she lost, I wouldn't be surprised if she had, and how the baby had saved her. She tells him that she thinks the baby is good, and Castiel is doubtful. He's basically of the same opinion that Dagon was, that the baby saved her not as an act of love, but as an act of self-preservation, that the baby needs her alive until it can be born. Like I said, but Castiel's a lot obviously kinder than Dagon is about it, and he asks Kelly that even if the baby is good, she's going to die giving birth to the baby. There's no way she'll be able to survive this. So who would take care of the baby? Who would keep the baby safe? Who would keep the baby on the right path? And as they're talking, she gets this kind of soft, motherly look on her face, and she tells him that she feels the baby kick, and she asks him if he wants to feel the baby kick, and he's kind of like, no, but she says, she kind of convinces him, and he puts his hand on her stomach, and he smiles. It's this really nice smile. I mean, Misha Collins has a beautiful smile anyway. The thing is, as he's feeling the baby and feeling the baby's energies, Kelly's eyes turn this golden color, not like a demon's eyes where they go completely a different color, just the part where there is color. And there's this vision of fire and of Cass standing in front of Kelly basically saying that he wouldn't let someone hurt her. There's a knock on the door. Cass goes and opens it, and there's a very pissed off pair of Winchesters on the stoop with Dean saying, yeah, that's mine, talking about the Colt. The brothers find out what Castiel's plan for Kelly and the baby are, the whole going to heaven thing, and they tell Cass what their plan is, the whole grace extraction thing. Cass seems to be of the opinion that might actually work. Sorry, water break. But the problem is, Kelly says no, she doesn't want to go along with it. That what they're talking about doing would take away what makes her baby special. And I'm like, what? What? But she and Cass wait in the Impala. She's in the front seat, Cass is in the back, while Sam and Dean are outside talking about what they should try and do. Kelly all of a sudden gets this look on her face like, I'm going to do this, grabs the keys and drives off in the Impala with Castiel in the back seat, and Sam and Dean going, what the fuck just happened? As they're driving, Cass is like, turn around. I can make you turn around, but Kelly's like, no, I'm not. She basically tells him that the baby told her to trust Castiel. She tells him that, her life up until the point when the baby happened, it wasn't, she was in a job she really didn't sound like she was very proud of, in a relationship that she knew really wasn't a good one, and that this baby is the first good thing that's happened to her in a very long time. And she tells him that the baby told her that the baby wants Castiel to care for him, the baby, after Kelly dies. Which Cass is like, that is a terrible idea. Dean manages to fix the truck up so he and Sam can go after Kelly and Cass, while Sam's saying, what the hell's going on with Cass? And Dean's like, after everything Cass has been through, he's kind of not surprised that the cheese finally slipped off Cass's cracker a little bit, the whole being possessed by Lucifer and all the other shit that went on earlier in the year. Kelly and Castiel get to the playground where the gate of heaven is located in this sandbox. The gate of heaven is opened and Joshua appears, although this time Joshua looks different from the last time we saw him. The last time we saw him back in Dark Side of the Moon, Joshua was the vessel that Sam and Dean saw in heaven was this older African American gentleman. And this time it's actually a figure that it's a younger white man. Joshua appears and tells Kelly that, she doesn't have to be afraid, and all of a sudden he is destroyed, disappears in a cloud of ash. It turns out Dagon's been there waiting for them. Dagon beats up on Castiel, and when the Winchesters show up and try and shoot her, she beats the hell out of Sam, throws him away, and slaps Dean around. From the look of it, might have broken Dean's arm. She takes the Colt and winds up destroying it. Cass turns to Kelly and tells her to run, but she doesn't. She just stands there and takes Castiel's hand. While Dagon kind of mocks this rather tender moment, all of a sudden this transfer of power happens from Kelly's hand. It goes up into Cass's body, and this you can tell it's this enormous amount of power, and Castiel's eyes turn that same gold color, and the blood that was on him from Dagon's attack is gone. He's completely healed. Dagon goes to strike him. Cass grabs her arm, and when she can't break free and she asks what's happening, he says that call it a miracle, in regards to something Kelly had said earlier. And Dagon bursts into flames and is utterly destroyed. And we get a episode break. We come back from commercial, and Cass helps the Winchesters up, and he heals Dean completely from his injury. And apparently, Cass's powers are completely amped up, to the nth degree. And there's something about him has changed. There's this real... I don't like to use this term, but I don't know what else to say. This eerie sort of calmness about him. He says that he was so lost, but he knows what he has to do now. That the child has to be born, and he has to be born with all of his power at full strength. And Sam and Dean are like, wait, what? No! They're both like, this is... excuse me, this is a bad idea, and they can't let him do this. Cass says, yes, you can, reaches out and touches Sam on the forehead, and Sam drops like a rock. And when Dean says, don't do this, he does the same thing to Dean. And Cass and Kelly go to the truck. They get in. Kelly asks what the baby told Castiel. Castiel says the baby didn't tell him anything. It showed him. That the baby showed him the future. And they wind up driving off, leaving Sam and Dean lying unconscious on the playground. And the episode ends. Wow. I thought this episode was absolutely fantastic. I give the future 4.5 bouquets out of 5. Really, really great stuff. This episode was directed by Amanda Tapping, who you may remember as being, she played the angel Naomi in season 8. And it was, I think she did a fantastic job. It was a really terrific episode. It is really scary. The end of it was really like, what happened to Cass? What did he see? And it was just really something crazy. I'm really looking forward to what happens next. I am sorry that we're not going to be seeing Ali An anymore. Ali was the lady that played Dagon. And so she's obviously done. And so, sorry, but your character was really kind of terrible and awful and a night of hell. So that's, what can you say? That kind of, it is what it is. Next week's episode we know is called Twigs and Twine and Tasha Baines. And we know that the siblings that we were introduced to in the episode, earlier on in the season, the Asa Fox episode, I can't remember the name of it right now, I'm sorry. The episode from the memory, in memory of Asa Fox, the two twins from that episode, the brother and sister hunters, are going to be back. And we know there are problems with witches, and we know that there are definitely problems when it comes to the whole relationship between Mr. Ketch and Mary Winchester. I want to say that I've really enjoyed season 12 so far. I would like to bring up something that's really kind of been irritating me. I don't know how to say this other than to just say it. Supernatural they've actually brought this up themselves on the show. That, for Supernatural fans, for people that are fans, they do complain a lot. And, I have to be honest, there is a lot of fans out there that, celebrating the life of Asa Fox was the name of that episode from earlier on, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that every episode is going to be perfect. Every episode's not going to be perfect. I know that. I'm not one of these people that is like everything's perfect and wonderful and sunshine and lollipops all the time. I know that. I get it. And not every episode is going to knock it out of the park for everybody. I get that too. But when people complain that, oh, there wasn't enough Sam and Dean in this episode, blah, 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 I'm sorry. It's called a universe for a reason. When you have a universe like Supernatural has developed over 12 seasons, where you have all these other characters, you can actually have room to talk about other people every once in a while. That doesn't mean the show's jumped the shark. That doesn't mean that it's a bad episode. How do you people read comic books? I mean, crying out loud, have you seen the number of characters in the Marvel universe? Or the DC universe? The strength of a show is that you don't have to focus every single moment on Sam and Dean and still have a really interesting episode. I enjoyed the hell out of the future. I enjoyed the scenes Sam and Dean were in. But you know what? I really enjoyed the interaction between Kelly and Castiel as well. I really have gotten to like Kelly as a character. I think Courtney Ford's doing a terrific job. I really love when other characters have their chance to shine. So, basically, I guess I'm pretty much saying, quit your bitching. Like I said, I'm not saying that every episode is perfect. I would never say that. But all the people who whine and bitch and moan and complain, shut up. Can't we just enjoy that we have a terrific show with great characters and not look for the negative every 5 seconds? Crying out loud, it makes me nuts, But for the most part, I think that for the most part, and I've said this before, Supernatural fans are some of the most giving, friendly, caring, generous, good-hearted people I've ever met. It's just this small percent that are annoying. And the problem is they're the percent that make the most noise. I do have to bring up one really quick thing about The Future. When they announced the name of this episode that it was called The Future, I friggin' panicked. The reason I panicked is because I don't know if anybody else has seen this movie. There was a movie a few years ago called The Future. It was directed by a woman named Miranda July. It's an independent film. I hate this movie. I hate this movie. Really. I really hate it. So when I saw that there was the name of the episode, I had a little mini freak out moment, but you know, it is what it is. So we'll be looking to next week with Twigs and Twine and Tasha Baines, and hopefully you guys will be back next week too. And that, kiddos, is going to wrap up another week here on Platinum Rose's Garden. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any queries, comments, complaints, money, chocolate, bearer bonds, anything like that you want to send my way, you can send that to platinumroselle@yahoo.com. Put PRG in the header, and I will know that you would like me to read the letter on the air, which I will be glad to do. You can follow me on Twitter if you like, over at platinumroselle@twitter.com. You can also check out my fan fiction if you'd like over on fanfiction.net. Look up Platinum Rose Lady in the author search section, and you can find my stuff there. And I hope you will check out the other shows that I am involved with on the interwebs and make up part of our little podcasting family. Those would include Subject Cinema, which is our movie podcast, me and my sweet sweetie TC, who is a fantastic person and super uber insanely talented. And we talk about movies and do movie reviews. We have something really exciting coming up this summer, which I hope you guys will check out. And you can listen to us over at subjectcinema.com, me and my croaky froggy voice. I'm sorry, I'm still not up to snuff yet. There's also Front Row 5 and 10, which is our countdown show. We do pop culture stuff and have all kinds of fun and do crazy things over there. And there's also Cavebabble at cavebabble.com, which is our good buddies, the Lion family. They review movies and games and talk about any old thing that they happen to be talking about that day. And they're great folks, and I hope you'll check them out. And I hope everybody out there has a great week. We're saying goodbye to April and moving on to May. We know that Supernatural has a double header at the season finale, 2 episodes in one night. I hope you can all stand it. And we're going to be heading into May. We know that April showers bring May flowers, and May flowers bring pilgrims. So this is Platinum Rose Lady signing off for another week, reminding you to love the ones you hug the ones you love, and take some time to stop and smell the roses. I'll see you around. Bye.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.